When you think cutting-edge software, Java probably isn't what pops into your head, right? I mean, it's been around since the 90s. But here's the thing. We're going to look at how this classic language isn't just hanging on, it's actually leading the pack in the world of microservices. And the why behind it all, well, it's pretty surprising.
Okay, so first things first, let's just look at the numbers. A whopping 34% of developers pick Java for building microservices. I mean, look at that. That's more than Python and Go put together. So what gives? In a world full of shiny new languages, why is Java crushing it in this super modern architecture? To really get that, we've got to rewind a bit and look at the problem microservices were created to fix in the first place.
And that problem? Yeah, it has a name. The monolith. For a long, long time, this was just how you built software. Picture this. You're building a house, but instead of separate rooms and systems, everything, the walls, the plumbing, the wiring, it's all one giant solid block. You can't change one thing without affecting everything else. Sounds like a headache, right? Well, you'd be right. So with a monolith, your whole app is one big, tangled up unit. What does that actually mean? It means if a developer wants to make a tiny change to, say, the login page, they could accidentally break the entire payment system. No joke. That makes every update super slow and incredibly risky. And the scariest part? It's got a single point of failure. If one little piece of that giant block goes down, the whole thing can crash. Not great for users and an absolute nightmare for the people trying to fix it. All right, so to get away from all that monolith madness, developers started thinking differently. They asked, instead of this one giant fragile block, what if we built our applications out of lots of small, independent pieces that just talk to each other? And that right there is the big idea behind microservices. So here's how it works. You take a big application and you chop it up into a bunch of smaller, independent services. Each little service is responsible for just one thing, like handling user accounts or processing payments. They communicate with each other using APIs, which are basically just a clear set of rules for how they can talk. It's kind of like having a team of experts, a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, instead of just one person trying to do the entire job.
And this way of doing things, it gives you some huge advantages. First, you get what's called decoupling, which really just means services can be updated on their own without breaking anything else. Each service can even have its own little database, and you can scale up just the parts of the app that are getting hammered with traffic, which is way more efficient. Best of all, if one service goes down, the rest of the app keeps running. That's what we call fault tolerance. It's just a much, much stronger and more flexible way to build things.
Okay, so that brings us right back to where we started. We've got this awesome, modern, flexible architecture that's basically taking over software development. So why on earth is a classic language like Java the #1 tool for the job? And trust me, it is taking over. We're talking about nearly 85% of big companies, the ones with over 5,000 employees, are already on board with microservices. This isn't some tiny trend. This is the new normal for building big, complicated apps. The demand is massive, and guess what? Developers are choosing Java to get it done. All right, let's really dig into it. Why Java? Well, its classic strengths are a perfect match for microservices. You know that famous write once, run anywhere promise? That's golden when you're deploying services all over the cloud. It's got rock-solid memory management and can handle tons of things happening at once. But honestly, the real secret sauce, it's the huge ecosystem of amazing frameworks, the built-in security features that people trust, and a giant community of developers you can turn to for help with pretty much anything. Okay, so that's the why. Now let's talk about the how. What does it actually look like to build these things with Java in the real world? Let's check out the blueprint. The great thing is, you're not starting from zero. The Java world is packed with powerful frameworks that make your life way easier. I like to think of it like picking a car for a race. You've got Spring Boot, that's your reliable workhorse, perfect for big, serious enterprise apps. Then there's Micronaut, that's more like a sleek electric car, super fast and efficient, great for serverless stuff where you need quick bursts of power. And then you have Quarkus, that's your Formula One racer, built for the cloud, starting up in the blink of an eye. The point is, whatever you're trying to build, Java's got a specialized tool for it. Now, using these tools isn't a free-for-all. It takes some real discipline. The best teams stick to a few key rules, like every service gets its own database, period. That keeps them independent. You absolutely have to automate how you release new code. That's what makes you fast. You've also got to plan for things to break, because trust me, they will. And finally, you have to be smart about versioning your APIs, so when you update one service, you don't accidentally wreck another one. Okay, look, This all sounds fantastic, but let's get real for a second. Switching to microservices is not some magic fix for all your problems. It comes with a whole new set of pretty big challenges. But the payoff at the end, well, it's often more than worth it. And yeah, adopting microservices is genuinely hard. For starters, finding people who really know their way around tools like Kubernetes is tough. You usually need to spend a lot on new, modern infrastructure. You're basically swapping the simple but clunky monolith for a complex web of services. And that brings up tricky issues with data and communication. And maybe the hardest part of all, it forces a huge change in how your teams work and think. You know, this quote really nails the trade-off. It says that, yeah, it's demanding and it takes a lot of resources, but the source is super clear on this. For any business that needs to grow, to be flexible, and to move fast, the benefits can be an absolute game changer. So what's the big payoff they're talking about? Well, it's being able to scale just the parts of your app that are busy, which saves a ton of money. It's being resilient so one little failure doesn't bring the whole house down. It's being agile so your teams can ship new features faster than you ever thought possible. All this adds up to being more cost-effective and able to run your app anywhere. That's why companies are pouring money into this. And that really leaves us with one final big question. We've seen the problems with the old monoliths and the powerful solution that microservices offer. We know it's hard. We know it's a huge challenge, but as our apps get more and more complex and competition gets tougher every day, you have to wonder, is this shift to microservices, with Java often leading the way, not really a choice anymore, but just inevitable for any business that actually wants to win?